One morning, our protagonist was getting ready when a girl called out to Eugene, suggesting that it would be better for him to attend the preparatory school, as it would suit him very well. However, Eugene wondered why she was saying that on the day of the entrance ceremony. He also remarked that since the school was so close to the neighborhood, he could study at his own pace. The woman replied that, considering his personality, his classmates would probably be below his level. Suddenly, Eugene stopped her, saying that it was perfectly fine because, to him, a preparatory school was just an ordinary school. Eugene lived in Kamakura City, Japan. While walking, he overheard two girls excitedly talking about seeing the cherry blossoms. Although he heard their conversation, he ignored it and continued walking, wondering, as he looked at the leaves, how much longer it would take for them to fall. He then looked at the bracelet on his wrist, reminding himself that it had been 10 years since he had been a high school student. He thought about his grandmother and guessed that his classes might be boring, but he would simply have to endure them until he went to college in England. While Eugene was passing by the ocean, he suddenly noticed a boy screaming loudly about the sea while swimming. Eugene was confused and wondered what had happened and why the boy was acting so wildly. The boy kept shouting repeatedly, making Eugene think that he was an idiot. Pretending that he had not seen him, Eugene tried to continue on his way. Since he did not know the boy, he thought that Kamakura was truly full of strange people. All of a sudden, everything became eerily quiet, making Eugene curious. He looked toward the ocean and noticed that the boy was drowning. Worried, Eugene looked around, only to find that no one else was paying any attention. He shouted at the people nearby, asking whether they had all lost their senses and reminding them that saving a human life should be their first priority. Without any hesitation, Eugene jumped into the water to save the boy, hoping that he was still alive. After managing to pull him ashore, the boy appeared terrified and remarked that the ocean was truly frightening and that he had thought he was going to die. Eugene could not understand what the boy was talking about. The boy assumed that Eugene must have thought that he simply could not swim, but he insisted that it was not true. He explained that something had suddenly grabbed him and dragged him underwater, which had terrified him. Eugene still could not understand why the boy was saying such things. The boy continued by claiming that he was actually very athletic, yet whatever had happened had frightened him badly. Eugene then wondered why the boy had been swimming there in the first place. The boy explained that he had grown up in the mountains, so he had become excited when he first saw the ocean. Eugene felt that it would be best to ignore him. The boy then added that excitement was only half the reason. He explained that he had heard rumors about ghosts appearing near the ocean recently, so he had come to investigate them. Suddenly, a man called out to both of them, warning them not to fool around because many people had recently drowned there. He added that 10 people had already died that month, and that there were rumors claiming that something had grabbed their legs underwater. He advised them to be more careful, otherwise they might meet the same fate. Eugene agreed with the man's warning. However, the other boy remarked that those rumors must have been true because he believed that a ghost had dragged him underwater. Eugene thought that the situation sounded quite terrible. He then looked at his soaking wet shirt and felt disappointed because it was brand new. He wondered what he should do, as he was supposed to deliver the speech as the representative of the new students. All of a sudden, Eugene remembered the entrance ceremony and realized that he was running late. He immediately rushed toward the school, while the boy followed him, commenting that Eugene seemed amazing since he was going to deliver the entrance speech as the top-ranked student. The boy then asked Eugene for his name before introducing himself as Mogari Shishikuno. Mogari explained that he had come alone from Akita and did not know anyone in the area. Eugene seemed annoyed as Mogari kept asking whether he was a local and requested that Eugene show him around the town after the ceremony. Mogari also said that he wanted to visit some haunted places in Kamakura because he was interested in ghosts. While running, Eugene looked irritated and remarked that ghosts did not exist because they were completely unscientific. He explained that such sightings were nothing more than illusions or the result of brain malfunctions caused by psychological and environmental factors. Mogari commented that Eugene really did seem like the kind of smart person who would say something like that, but admitted that he was not going to believe him. Eugene could not understand what Mogari was thinking and wondered what he was even trying to accomplish. At last, they reached the entrance ceremony. As Eugene opened the gate, he apologized for arriving late. However, Mogari excitedly replied that it was completely fine because they had slipped in casually and that he felt no one would notice them. Things turned awkward as soon as they entered the ceremony hall. It was packed with students, all of whom immediately turned toward the two of them, wondering what had happened and whether they had been involved in an accident. Mogari was shocked by the sight because there had never been so many people in the place he came from. A teacher standing on the stage was also confused by the commotion. After one of the junior staff members informed him about the situation, the teacher announced that the student who had just entered the ceremony soaking wet was none other than the representative of the new students, Eugene Korikishi. Eugene felt embarrassed because he considered the situation humiliating. Finally, when he walked onto the stage, one of the junior staff members handed him the script for the relative's oath. However, Eugene replied that it was unnecessary because he had already read it once and had memorized the entire speech. Finally, Eugene delivered his speech, stating that, as students of the school, they should always feel refreshed and take pride in wearing their brand new uniforms. However, no one seemed convinced by Eugene's appearance, and many of the students continued looking at him as though he were a fool because of his drenched clothes. A man from India commented that Eugene was a quiet but brilliant and accomplished boy, wondering why a genius like him had chosen to attend their school. One of the teachers also remarked that Eugene's enrollment would surely improve the school's reputation. Among the students attending the ceremony, one boy noticed that Eugene was still soaking wet. Although he did not say anything, he did not seem pleased by the situation. After the ceremony ended, Eugene returned to his seat, commenting that it had been the worst experience he had had in the last 15 years. Mogari remarked that it was great that the two of them had ended up in the same class. Eugene replied that it was good to know, although he still felt that the entire day had been a complete mess. All of a sudden, Eugene realized something and screamed loudly, making Mogari curiously ask what had happened. Eugene explained that the bracelet his grandmother had given him was no longer on his wrist. He then asked Mogari whether he had seen it, mentioning that the silver key attached to it was missing as well. Mogari denied knowing anything about it. Eugene concluded that it had probably fallen into the ocean, though he could not understand how he had lost it. After the ceremony, Eugene returned to the beach where the incident had occurred that morning. He thought that finding the bracelet would be difficult and assumed that it had probably been washed away by the waves. Mogari followed him, commenting that he could not simply leave such an important item behind. He then curiously asked whether the bracelet meant that much to Eugene. Eugene revealed that it was a keepsake from his grandmother and that it was one of his most precious possessions. He explained that his grandmother had always understood the real Eugene, even when no one else did. While everyone believed that he was extraordinary, she knew that he was just an ordinary person beneath the surface, and she was the person he trusted the most. Mogari apologized to Eugene for failing to find the bracelet. However, Eugene told him that it was not his fault, explaining that he had simply been careless. As Eugene prepared to leave, Mogari asked whether they could visit a haunted place together another time. Eugene replied that ghosts were nothing more than fairy tales. He added that if ghosts really existed, he would have seen one by then. Mogari insisted that one day they would both see a ghost. However, Eugene disagreed and told him that if he truly believed in ghosts without any proof, he should find someone else to discuss the matter with. As Eugene walked away, he thought that losing someone did not mean losing the memories of that person. However, he still believed that Mogari was an idiot for thinking that ghosts were real. The next day, Eugene felt disappointed with himself, realizing that he had acted immaturely and had lashed out at Mogari unnecessarily. As Eugene was about to leave after putting on his shoes, the woman came over once again and handed him an umbrella because it was raining that morning. She also advised him not to get involved with people of bad character and reminded him to spend some time with his friends instead of always keeping to himself. Eugene reflected on the previous day and realized that Mogari had only asked for a tour of the city because he was alone in an unfamiliar place. He began to think that perhaps he had been the one who had behaved badly. Lost in thought, Eugene opened his umbrella as the rain continued to pour. He noticed that both the rain and the wind were becoming stronger. As he passed by the ocean, he was shocked to see Mogari still in the water. Wondering what he was doing there, Eugene hurried over. Mogari apologized, explaining that he still had not been able to find the bracelet. He He added that he had borrowed a flashlight from a man who had been fishing the previous night so that he could continue searching. Eugene was stunned when he realized that Mogari had been searching for the bracelet throughout the entire night. Mogari explained that he had kept looking because the bracelet was very important to Eugene. Hearing that, Eugene stood there in silence as he looked at Mogari, who was completely soaked after spending the whole night in the ocean. Mogari shouted that the bracelet was a precious memento from someone Eugene admired deeply, which was why he could not give up searching for it. Eugene could not understand why Mogari had gone so far for his sake. All of a sudden, he burst into laughter and remarked that Mogari was a strange boy. He then walked over to Mogari and explained that the silver key attached to the bracelet was only a good luck charm and did not actually open anything. Eugene added that he did not need any magical key. Eugene further added that he would show Mogari around the city since he was the one who had caused him so much trouble. He then offered Mogari a hand to help him up. Eugene wondered why Mogari was so determined to visit only haunted places when Kamakura had so many interesting attractions. Mogari replied that it was something like a mission. Eugene could not understand what he meant. All of a sudden, a huge wave crashed toward them. The current was so strong that both of them decided to move away from the shoreline. However, before they could get to safety, Eugene suddenly slipped and fell into the ocean, making Mogari panic. As Eugene struggled in the water, he felt as though something was grabbing his leg and dragging him deeper. He wondered whether it was seaweed or some kind of sea creature. Mogari became frightened because the incident reminded him of the local rumors. He quickly grabbed Eugene's hand and tried to pull him out, saying that he did not know whether he would be able to save him on his own. Meanwhile, another boy was walking through the rain. As he made his way along the road, he passed by a frightening-looking man. Although the man's appearance startled him, he decided not to get involved, believing that nothing good would come from interfering with suspicious people. Soon, he noticed Eugene and Mogari struggling near the ocean. He recognized them as the two boys who had arrived at the entrance ceremony soaking wet the previous day. Wondering what they were doing, he felt that something about the situation was strange. He decided to ignore it and continue walking. However, just then, he heard Eugene scream that it felt as though his arm was about to be torn off. Eugene desperately urged Mogari to hurry and save him. Mogari continued pulling with all his strength and told Eugene not to give up because they still had a chance. Eugene was beginning to lose hope when, all of a sudden, Mogari sneezed. The sudden movement somehow caused Eugene's arm to come free from whatever had been holding it, sending him flying through the water. At that very moment, the other boy rushed over and caught Eugene by the hand, pulling him to safety. Mogari looked at the newcomer in confusion and wondered who he was. The boy introduced himself as Kamakura. His strange behavior left Mogari confused, but Mogari still thanked him for helping. However, Kamakura explained that the thing dragging Eugene into the ocean was an Ochimusha. Mogari was stunned, realizing that a real Ochimusha ghost had appeared. The enormous spirit was still reaching toward Eugene from the ocean. Eugene, however, could not understand what Mogari was talking about and wondered why he kept mentioning ghosts. All of a sudden, Mogari became extremely excited, happily announcing that he had finally been able to see one. He explained that he normally could not see spirits unless he borrowed someone else's spiritual power, and he asked the others to stay exactly where they were. Kamakura wondered what Mogari was planning, believing that it was useless for ordinary people to try to confront spirits. Suddenly, Mogari stuck out his tongue and declared that, now that he could see the spirit, they were on his turf. Eugene was surprised to notice a mysterious tattoo on Mogari's tongue. The ghost seemed to be trying to say something, but no one could understand its words. Mogari confidently declared that it was the same spirit that had dragged him underwater the previous day. He wondered whether the ghost was merely playing a prank or whether it had a final message it wanted to convey after its death. He added that, regardless of its reason, they were still alive, and since they were about to begin their school life, they should not let it interfere anymore. Mogari then charged straight toward the spirit, shouting that it should simply let him eat the monster whole. Eugene could not understand what Mogari was talking about. At that moment, Eugene remembered something his grandmother had once told him. She had said that although he was much smarter than most people, The world was filled with countless unknown and exciting things that could only be understood by experiencing them firsthand. She had also explained that the key she had given him would one day unlock Eugene's world, and that he should use it when the time came. The scene returned to the present as Mogari suddenly leaped at the spirit and bit into its face, attempting to devour it. Watching this, Eugene instinctively grabbed Mogari's shoulder for support and felt utterly disgusted, wondering whether Mogari was actually eating the spirit. After a while, they returned to the shore, and the spirit disappeared completely. Still unable to comprehend everything that had happened, Eugene wondered who Mogari really was. Mogari casually introduced himself by saying that he was an ordinary high school student enjoying the prime of his youth, but that he also happened to work as an exorcist from time to time. After that, when they returned to school, Eugene learned that Mogari had come there to exorcise spirits. It was a condition for him to attend high school because, if he had not enrolled, he would have been forced to spend the next 10 years training in the mountains of Akita. Eugene became concerned and wondered what kind of family environment Mogari had grown up in. Mogari revealed that his family had been involved in the spirit medium business for generations, describing it as a very strange family tradition. He explained that spirit mediums naturally attracted ghosts, so people often said that if they did not want to spend their lives training in the mountains, they had to become stronger by working as exorcists instead. That was why he had chosen that path, as it gave him a sense of freedom. Eugene understood that Mogari did not actually have any bad intentions. Mogari added that it was not a big deal, because he only had to put in a little effort occasionally and make it appear as though he was working hard. Eugene was surprised by his carefree attitude. He then realized that they had already missed the morning homeroom. Just then, Mogari remembered someone. At that moment, Eugene noticed an elegant foreign-looking woman with white hair who was holding 2 short red cookies. He wondered who she was. Mogari continued by saying that Eugene probably did not believe in ghosts and was not interested in them. Eugene replied that the reason was simple: he had never seen a ghost. Mogari explained that Eugene lacked spiritual abilities. He added that if both of them possessed spiritual power, they might have been able to share it through physical contact. Eugene agreed, but pointed out that even if someone who could see spirits touched him, he still would not be able to see them. That was why he could not believe in ghosts, although he genuinely wanted to believe Mogari. Mogari became extremely happy after hearing that and asked Eugene to help him with exorcisms. However, Eugene replied that he would not be able to help because he could not see the spirits. Mogari then suggested asking Kamakura for help, mentioning that he was also a new student like them. After thinking for a moment, Mogari came up with an idea. He decided to gather people who could sense spirits and form a club, which he planned to call the Phantom Busters. Since Eugene knew that Mogari would never accomplish such a task on his own, he wondered whether the club's name had been inspired by Ghostbusters. Mogari awkwardly replied that it was simply meant as a tribute. He added that they would not be able to establish the club unless they found someone who could actually see spirits. Whether they succeeded or not would ultimately depend on Kamakura. Mogari remembered his childhood, when the other children constantly bullied him because of the monsters he could see. They even chased him while calling him a cursed child. Mogari felt miserable and told them not to come any closer to him. All of a sudden, he noticed a woman vomiting. Worried, he went over to check on her and wondered whether she was all right or if he should call an ambulance. However, when she looked up, she appeared to be a monster, which frightened him. Believing that she was a dead person, he immediately ran away. Later, he returned home, where his mother asked whether he had washed his hands and reminded him not to start reading manga right away. She told him that he should finish his homework first. People believed that ghosts were transparent and had no lips, but because Mogari could see them so clearly, he could not distinguish them from living people. He then went to his room, buried his face in his manga, and wondered why he had been born with those strange colored eyes that allowed him to see such things. The scene then returned to the present, where Eugene and Mogari went to Kamakura's house and asked for his help. However, Kamakura refused, leaving both of them surprised. Mogari once again explained that his family belonged to a lineage of British exorcists and that both he and Eugene worked to help restless spirits. He explained that, instead of training in the mountains, he had come to the city to live as an exorcist and send ghosts back to where they belonged. Although he possessed the power to do so, he could not accomplish it alone. Since he was unable to see the ghosts himself, he needed the help of someone who could. Kamakura refused once again. Mogari became annoyed and was about to explain everything again, but Eugene said that it was already enough. Kamakura was surprised that there were other people who could see or sense ghosts, but he stated that he no longer wanted to deal with them. When Mogari asked for the reason, Kamakura explained that once such spirits discovered that someone could see them, they would begin to haunt that person. He further added that, if they were not careful, the spirits would even come to their homes and give them nightmares. He also mentioned that dealing with them would eventually affect a person's mind, and that Eugene and Mogari would not understand what it was like. Besides that, Kamakura said that he had already joined another club, so he would not be joining the Phantom Busters. When Eugene asked which club he had joined, Kamakura replied that he had joined the basketball club. Mogari did not think it was a good idea, and they soon learned that Kamakura had never played basketball before. When they asked why he had joined the club despite that, Kamakura replied that it was because he loved slam dunk. Eugene and Mogari were shocked. Mogari wondered what slam dunk was. Eugene wondered whether Mogari really did not know about it, as it was a famous basketball manga. However, Eugene admitted that even he had never read it. He added that the series contained many famous quotes, which finally made Mogari understand how popular it was. Kamakura became furious and declared that he hated both of them. He questioned how they could come to school without even knowing what slam dunk was. He also wondered how someone who claimed to like manga had never read such an absolute masterpiece. He repeated that he hated both of them. Mogari asked Kamakura not to say things like that. Eugene also apologized, but Kamakura suddenly shouted that they should never talk to him again and should never read manga in the future. After saying that, he walked away.